The aftermath of early victories. On January 5, 1942, as triumphant cries of victory echoed through Tokyo, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto directed the combined fleet staff to prepare for the second stage of Japan's Pacific War operations. Reports from the Philippines, Malaya, and the Dutch East Indies confirmed sweeping victories. Within months, Yamamoto believed Japan would control East Asia. He ordered his chief of staff, Admiral Matome Ugaki, to complete new operational plans by mid-February. The lightning success of Japan's opening offensives shocked even its own planners and sparked deep divisions within the Imperial General Staff. Diverging visions in the Japanese High Command. Two opposing camps emerged in Tokyo. Nationalist militarists, intoxicated by victory, urged expansion at any cost, pressing to strike as far as Japan's arms could reach. In contrast, Yamamoto's faction, skeptical from the start about war with the United States and Britain, urged caution. Yamamoto's foresight and outspoken criticism made him enemies among extremists. Fearing assassination, his friends urged him to remain at sea aboard the battleship Yamato, the combined fleet flagship. Ugaki's diary captured the tone of the admiral. Yamamoto often warned that Japan needed far-sighted statesmanship and could not hope to win a prolonged war against the Western powers.
Yamamoto's early warnings were not new. 3 months before Pearl Harbor, he told his friend Ryoichi Sasakawa, head of the ultra-nationalist Kokusukai organization, that Japan would initially have everything our own way, spreading like an octopus with its tentacles. Yet he warned that such euphoria would fade. Once Singapore fell, he argued, Japan should seize that political moment to seek peace before the Allies recovered. His experience in Washington as naval attaché 1926 to 1928 and as a delegate to the London Naval Conferences 1930-1934 had given him keen insight into Western psychology. Japan, he said, had 18 months of glory before inevitable decline, time enough, if wisely used, to negotiate a settlement. The search for a decisive blow. By January 1942, the war seemed to favor Japan. Pearl Harbor had crippled the U.S. battleship fleet. British warship Repulse and Prince of Wales lay at the bottom of the South China Sea, and Manila, Hong Kong, and key bases across the Pacific had fallen. Yet Yamamoto's expectations were unmet. The American aircraft carriers, his true targets, had escaped. To force a decisive battle, he demanded a spectacular victory. The Army rejected his proposal to attack the Soviet Union, already tied down in China, and other ideas were debated, striking Australia or the Indian Ocean. Yamamoto preferred the latter, envisioning a thrust towards Ceylon, Sri Lanka, to destroy the British Eastern Fleet and possibly link with the Germans in the Middle East, securing vital oil supplies. The Army, however, dismissed the plan as overambitious.
The road to Midway. Unwilling to abandon his search for a decisive engagement, Yamamoto drafted two alternative plans. The first, the MI plan, called for an attack on Midway Island to lure out and annihilate the U.S. carrier fleet. The second, the AL plan, envisioned invading Alaska's Aleutian Islands as a diversion and potential stepping stone to North America. His goal was not conquest for its own sake, but to gain a position strong enough to offer peace from strength. Despite heated opposition in Tokyo, Yamamoto prevailed. Yet events soon overtook him. The fall of Singapore, February 15, 1942, and the surrender of Bataan and Corregidor might have served his purpose. But these opportunities were lost after Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle's air raid on Tokyo, April 18, 1942. The shock of that symbolic attack hardened Japanese resolve and convinced leaders that the United States was only beginning to fight. Disaster at Midway and its concealment. In June 1942, Yamamoto's long-awaited confrontation came at Midway, but the result was catastrophic. Japan lost 4 fleet carriers and hundreds of trained airmen, an irreparable blow to naval strength. The scale of defeat was concealed from most of the army and public. Only top naval officials knew the truth. As Yamamoto's fleet reeled from disaster, Japanese forces elsewhere continued their southern advance toward New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, aiming to isolate Australia from Allied support. The Coral Sea Battle, May 14, 1942, had already foiled Japan's attempt to seize Port Moresby, but the enemy still controlled Rabaul and was constructing new air bases across the Pacific.
The Allied dilemma and MacArthur's plea. The growing threat alarmed General Douglas MacArthur, who arrived in Australia in March. Convinced Japan would soon strike again, he urged Washington to send 2 carriers and 1,000 aircraft to defend the region. In Washington, Admiral Ernest J. King, Chief of Naval Operations, informed General George C. Marshall that only 2 operational carriers remained in the Pacific. Nonetheless, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz anticipated another major Japanese offensive, which materialized at Midway. Despite Japan's loss there, Imperial headquarters pressed on with their South Pacific strategy, confident that a Midway victory, as they still believed it, guaranteed success. Planning the counteroffensive. By mid-June 1942, Allied intelligence confirmed Japan's buildup in the Solomons and New Guinea. MacArthur proposed a bold counterattack through New Britain, New Ireland, and Rabaul, requiring carriers, aircraft, and amphibious divisions. Marshall supported the idea, but Admiral King objected. It would place MacArthur under Navy control and risk carriers to land-based air. Instead, Admiral King proposed a naval-led offensive, beginning with limited objectives: capture Tulagi, Guadalcanal, and nearby islands to halt Japan's advance. Once the initial phase succeeded, MacArthur's forces would continue northward. This compromise formed the basis of the Joint Chiefs South Pacific Strategy.
Admiral King's command structure and preparations. King created the South Pacific Command under Vice Admiral Robert L. Gormley and appointed Rear Admiral Richmond Kelly Turner to organize amphibious operations. Even before Midway's outcome was known, Turner and Marine General Holland M. Smith began developing island-hopping techniques. The plan envisioned 4 phases: hold the defensive line, seize the Solomons and Bismarck Archipelago, capture the Marshalls and Carolines, then advance toward the Philippines or Dutch East Indies. King approved and ordered Gormley to take charge in June 1942. Gathering storm over Guadalcanal. Intelligence soon identified Guadalcanal as the next Japanese target. Reconnaissance in late May revealed construction of an airfield there, later confirmed by Australian coast watchers and U.S. codebreakers. Yamamoto ordered the 11th and 13th construction units to complete the airfield by early July. Recognizing the danger of a Japanese base threatening Allied routes to Australia, Nimitz and King decided to strike first. Admiral Turner began assembling and training an amphibious task force at Wellington, New Zealand, with only 1 month to prepare. Challenges and conflicting commanders. Vice Admiral Gormley, traveling to meet MacArthur in Melbourne, doubted the plan's feasibility. Both commanders